Hi, I'm Melissa Burkett from JVC Kenwood, and I'm here at StudioOne with Gert and LMR industry leader and founder of the Critical Communications Review. So Gert, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate having you here. Would you like to introduce yourself and share a little bit about your experience?
Yes, Alyssa, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be here at StudioOne and to talk about the critical communications industry. I have the Critical Communications Review online. That's an online magazine, actually, a newswire all about critical communications, different kinds of technologies. But since a few years, I'm also running a YouTube channel solely focused on critical communications, and that's done in a vlog format. So not the static interviews, which you normally see happening, and it's more like an active format of interviewing. So you can see that on YouTube channel with my name, Gert.
And you're really the only person in the industry right now doing a similar format.
Yeah, because I was doing these one-on-one interviews where you had a camera on one side and you had a microphone and you were talking to people, and I thought, well, let's do something different. We got a lot of new entries into the market, new younger generation of people who like to view things in a different way, who are watching YouTube videos as well instead of television, and I wanted to give them a new format of informing them about the industry and have some more entertainment as well. And that combination is running quite well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's very, very exciting what you've been able to accomplish and what you're doing currently in the industry, and we're just thrilled to have you here at StudioOne. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. Do you want to talk a little bit about some current trends in global communications and where you see that industry going?
Yeah, well, that's a good first question, actually, because there is so much going on from so many different angles. Where in the past we were talking about LMR business, right? That was it. You had a new accessory, you had a new other product or a new radio, and that was it, basically. Now with the entrance of broadband into our industry, we have LTE, we have 4G, we're going to have 5G in the future. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. There are so many trends on Bluetooth accessories. We see a lot of entries on 4G, private LTE networks coming into the market. We see a lot of new products still on LMR, on Tetra, on P25, and so on. So that's still taking place, and that's definitely something that continues to grow, that market. This morning I spoke to somebody, we were talking about DMR, digital mobile radio, and the biggest growth at this moment in the industry from LMR is still taken by DMR. So I was kind of surprised to hear that, but on the other hand, actually not, because there's still a lot of analog users. So these are the trends, and we are looking now to integrate all kinds of other technologies into critical communications. So we transform that into critical technologies, actually. Absolutely. And critical communications will be part, in the future, will be part of all of the communications technology.
So where do you kind of see that 5G technology? What does that evolution look like currently?
Well, I have been trying to find out at this show, what is about 5G. So there is so much going on 5G, and you have the doubters, you have the people who are pro 5G or really think it's going to happen within the next year. You have the people that are really totally not interested at this point in time. They will say, let it develop first before we take a standpoint. So there's much to learn about 5G. But at this show, we're pretty conservative here in the United States, I think. Yeah. And there are some organizations pushing it a little bit, like Nokia, like Verizon is talking about 5G. But further down the line, it's still relatively low level.
Yeah, so you kind of mentioned we're a little risk adverse here. So what do you kind of see those challenges with 5G and getting to that public safety, level of communication with the 5G LTE technology?
Well, there are some challenges because we all talk about the great benefits of 5G, the throughput, the low latency, and so on. But you have a few challenges, some technological challenges, also some adoptional challenges, I think. The technological challenges are spectrum. That's one of them. There's also a financial one, by the way. It's about what will it cost. There's nothing known about what will the cost be. How much will it cost? Are there enough base stations? Are there enough antennas? You need to tweak the whole system, so there will be costs involved. That is a challenge. Yesterday I spoke to somebody and he told me about the fact that there is a lot of risk involved in 4G, but also in 5G, not in the network, but in the devices. The devices can be breached easily. And the question is, what can we do about that? And when I spoke to one of the leaders and one of the co-founders of FirstNet, he said to me, well, Gert, there are some other applications again that can be adopted to put on, you can put these applications on a smart radio, and that kills the challenges of cyber hacks and so on. So there are all kinds of things going around. People have different ideas, different thoughts about things, and that's also a challenge because we don't know what to expect yet.
Right.
We have an idea about this whole market and how 5G will evolve and what it will bring to us, but how do we adopt 5G? And by the way, we talk about 5G. This morning I read an article about 10G. USA Today published an article about 10G, and we're also talking about 6G. So my question is, now when we talk about 5G, should we not just talk about the Gs? And at the moment in time of implementation, or when an end user chooses a G, will it be 5, 6, or 7, or 10G, whatever it is?
Right.
So yeah, there are some challenges ahead. And I think we need to settle down a little bit and to understand the timelines of implementation and development. And I think that the TCCA with the PSTA supporting the 3GPP SA6 group who are working on these challenges, I think we need to focus a little bit on that and to make sure that the timelines are met, and then we're going to take a look at the implications of implementations.
Yeah, sure. So even with those challenges that we're currently facing, where do you see the industry going, and how do you feel that LTE technology is going to help shape public safety grade communications, kind of long term going forward?
Well, now the adoption of LTE is 4 and 5G is the more organizations you have, the more different possibilities to adopt those technologies, and it will often be combined with LMR for now and in the next couple of years. I don't see LMR going away very quickly. There's still a LMR business if we look at voice, and that will be for the next 10 years until really LTE 5G has been implemented into the market. So the adoption is for every single organization totally different. It depends about the needs of an organization. Sure. In the past, you could say, you can take a P25 network or a TETRA or DMR network, and that's it. That's your communications. There was no broadband communications. Nowadays, you have voice, you have data, and you can combine all of these communications together. You can have so many apps, you can have so many accessories, Bluetooth. It's a whole ecosystem what we're looking at right now, and that ecosystem is getting bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. So I think this era where we're living in right now is good business for the consultants to consult organizations on what they should choose and pick and choose for their organizations to work with.
Absolutely. So you kind of talked a little bit about the different needs of those agencies, and we're experiencing that currently in the LMR industry as a whole. Every agency has a different requirement. Every agency has different needs, and so there's a variety of technologies that can fit those needs. And do you think that going forward, LTE is going to kind of bring a new generation of the requirements that agencies will demand of their technology?
Oh yeah, definitely. If we look at what's possible with our smartphones right now in our private lives, and all of the ideas that you see right now happening in the market, many of those things we already use in our private life. So what we see an adoption of applications and solutions that we use in our private life that will be enhanced for public safety, and they will be made even better and smarter and faster for public safety organizations. Yeah. So I see that adoption. I see that coming up all the time. Well, location information, for example, we use that already. If I want to know where my wife is, I know where my wife is. Yeah. I can track her on my iPhone. That's already happening for the last 3 or 5 years.
Right.
Now this is happening right now in our public safety industry. So you see all of those applications coming back. And when we look at defense, for example, from the defense industry, there are a lot of solutions and applications that they use over there that we use right now in public safety. Sometimes they're very expensive, but sometimes, we can work with it.
So right now we're talking about, the not yet public safety grade capabilities of LTE. So what advice would you have for public safety agencies kind of looking to bridge the gap between this traditional LMR technology and waiting for the public safety grade nature of LTE?
Just wait. Because there are so many good LMR systems out there. Technology is still being developed, further developed from every single technology. If we talk about P25, if we talk about Tetra, if we talk about DMR, so these are the digital technologies, right? That we're talking about, at least open standard technologies. It isn't yet time to go into 4G LTE. Although you have the network there already being prepared for public safety. I see that happening around the world. It's very early to step into 4G for voice communications for public safety at the moment. It's too early, and it's definitely too early for 5G. We don't even talk about 5G right now. So these are technologies that are supporting LMR communications, and I think that's for the next coming years, the next 4 years maybe. That's what I'm thinking. It will support LMR, so it will support Tetra, it will support P25, and it will support DMR communications. So if there are any agencies still on analog, go to digital. Get used on the way to work with digital radio communications, and then take the next step, if it's 4G or directly into 5G or 6G. Right. Because some organizations will definitely skip 4G.
So right now what we're looking at is almost kind of stick with that technology, that LMR, public safety grade technology, and as LTE starts to develop more and more, we can start adding in those components as they become more public safety grade, but we're not quite there yet to actually transfer over to a complete LTE technology and get rid of LMR altogether.
Exactly, because we need to make sure that we're going to have secure networks and they have reliable networks, and that's most important, and that's what LMR is delivering still.
Sure. So kind of looking forward to the industry, talking past 2020 and, into the future, the next 10 years, where do you see the industry going on a global level, and how do you feel we're going to get there?
Well, the industry will be, and if we talk about 2030, it's going to be very interesting because it can go so many ways. It depends on the speed of development. Yeah. So with the speed of development right now, we're looking probably, as USA Today wrote this morning, on 10G. I'm not sure what that means. And many people around here at the show don't even know what 5G exactly means. So we don't know what it means. We do know that there are new technologies supporting our critical communications end users. Right. And I think we need to take one piece at a time. And you don't eat an elephant in one go. You eat an elephant in little pieces, right? And that's what we need to do right now. Don't look too far ahead. Let the developers develop their thing. Let the end user be focused on critical communications as it is today in voice, and use the LMR systems.
Absolutely. Gert-Jan, thank you so much for joining us at the StudioOne this week, and we really appreciate having you here and just getting your perspective on global communications and where the market is going. But thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for tuning in to StudioOne. We hope to see you again.
Thank you.